Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today we'll demonstrate in a very brief period the ability of AtomicDB to integrate multiple data sources into a single view and allow for inquiry into any of those fields that you might see. We start the process by creating essentially what is known as a CMap. CMap is essentially a model or a collection of multiple fields that have like or grouped properties. This essentially would represent one table, this would represent another, yet this another, and of course this another. These three, as you can see, represent essentially what amounts to foreign and primary key, foreign and primary key. Once we've accomplished this, we can of course create additional fields should we forget, and place that anywhere that we wish for whatever purpose in the event that we want to modify on the fly. We simply export the CMap into a 6L file. Having already accomplished this, we simply start AtomicDB. This allows us now to simply import the exact same model or frame. As you can see, they are, after all, identical. Give it a name. And now we have a fully functional database, as you can see. Now, assuming that at some point in time during the design process I forgot some fields, not a problem. We can add them as we go on the fly to the same model. Great. Now, at some point, we decide that we're going to add our fields, or our sources of data, I should say, customer data, order, product category, customer, etc. These are 5 separate files, so to speak, or 5 data sources. They now become sources for us to merge into a single data view. Going back to the first, we can simply map the tables, the fields I should say. Now we are case insensitive by nature, but can enforce case sensitivity. Now the fact that these are mapped one-to-one is interesting because we can synchronize backwards and forwards, so we can read the data and write back to the original source. However, should I have a different name structure, I can of course accommodate that as well. Moving into the next set, again the same process. You'll see that customer ID and customer ID were married. Both, this can be an integer field and this can be a text field. In our case, we don't concern ourselves with that at this point. At later point, we can actually alter that and merge the data sets, essentially cleaning the data. This process continues. And we continue. Now you'll notice the product ID and product ID were married, as were region ID, product category. Now, I can also, at some point in time, add the actual data from databases, if that's what's desired. And access database as an example. Now, all databases will pretty much look the same. In our case, we will select customer, invoices, order details, orders, products, that should do it, and suppliers. Let's do that. Done. That took about 2 minutes, maybe a minute and a half or so, and they will become our sources. Again, merging, actually much quicker than that, So as you can see, I now have 6 new data sources from one database and 5 sources from yet 5 different sources. Now in continuing this process, I can also grab data from an Excel spreadsheet. In this case, we will grab employee. As you can see, it is an Excel spreadsheet. There we go. And done. That will also become yet another source for us in a second. There we go. There is my Excel spreadsheet, as you can see. Having done this, I can now go back to the data here from a table. I can marry it to city, country, email address, last name, first name, job title, zip code from that field. From this table, I can have the invoice. Well, let's use order ID. And I can continue to do this all day long. I'll do. Now, as you'll know, the shipping doesn't exist here. And even from this point forward, I can simply add it to the model. Again, next field becomes order ID, product ID, quantity, unit price. Going down to the 4th set, again, order ID. As I said before, we can add notes. We can add a field if we're missing it. And again, now notes becomes part of this. Customer ID. Employee ID is now here. Again, we added that as time went on. We can continue again. City. No, that's not going to work. It's the same one. This is the same table. Okay, my apologies. Now from the Excel spreadsheet, we have first name, last name. Interesting. And of course the regions, which we had. Yeah, that was already done. Okay. Having done all of this, we can now basically go back and start to import our data into the system. Now this can be done in a batch process. This can be done in a synchronous process, asynchronous process, on an event basis, etc. Any way that is sufficient or suits the business or the desired results. This is just sort of done for the sake of presentation. Now, all of our data can be grouped and identified as to source and destination. This is for programmers, so you can read, write back and forth what fields we took and where they are connected to. Once completed, the data is opened, and we are now able to inquisition the data, if you will. For example, country. We have 9 countries we know we're working with, and there is the result set. Everything that's related to Canada, these particular orders IDs are in. Same thing with France, Italy, or a combination of the same. In the event that that is not what's required, one can simply pick out any particular field and get a result set on any particular area or combination. So as an example, customer ID, country, we can select this and ID that there's no record here. And there we go. We can identify what records where are involved with Canada and what salesperson is. Again, it doesn't matter what field you select. You'll get a result set with not writing a line of single code. If you wish to export, simply select the country, perhaps as an example, and select China. We have a result set, which you then simply export to a result file, such as the Excel for reporting or live onto a web page. And again, everything can be modified on the fly. One of the interesting things that we support is, as an example, product description. I generally use for this product description. For example, I have WO1 and WO2. WO1 returns these 3 record sets. Row 2 returns 3 separate record sets, but we must assume that row 2 is an error. Much like John Smith and John Smythe, they should both be John Smith. I can simply rename the offending record, and all of the corresponding records that relate to it can be merged into the single WO1, and that will return the 6 records. So essentially we can merge and clean as much data as you wish, again within seconds. Our last option for this particular video is again saved expressions. Much like stored procedures, only these stored procedures are not tied to a specific table or not tied to a specific query. They are query agnostic and stored procedure agnostic. So an example, if I took price here and I said give me average price, this now becomes an object for us. So I'll give it a sum, we run it, resulting $43,000, etc. So that's the sum, but I want the average price. Simply divide by the count of orders. And it gives me my average. This result set will be updated as an object. So as you enter data into the system, it will update this object, and this object is what you would call within your functions. So we don't run a process in the background that will, run weeks sometimes. As the data is entered, it is automatically updating the value of this object or this equation. And this can be as complicated as you wish it to be or as simple as you wish it to be. Now, the last part of this tutorial, real quick tutorial, is in the event that you wish to separate out the data. You simply create a new model. As you can see, there is nothing there. However, I decide today that I want the country there, the city, customer name, his email. From the order, I want the salesperson, the order date. From, let's grab the first one. I don't want to put PPI information, so we leave it at that. The notes. And let's say what region name. Again, you can build these models on the fly, and the resulting set is the same. Why this is important is because we eliminate PPI information. This is what you would publish. There is no way to identify something that doesn't exist. So our security model is instantaneous. So you can see Boston has nothing. If we go to Boston, again, I'm sorry. Barcelona, again, result set. I hope that's answered some of your questions. I will create a few other videos as needed. Thank you.